I have to figure out how to make it stop having to ask me to confirm when I get on here. How are you?
Oh, Kurt, happy Father's Day to you.
Yeah, I suppose if my kids were interested in me, it'd be a happier Father's Day, but I love them anyway.
It's like, it's a very funny thing. It's like, I consider the job to be rather thankless.
It is.
And it's like, so I made a special effort this month to call my father and thank him. I did already. I'll call him today as well because it is thankless. It's like you appreciate that more as you age into it, right? And it's okay. It's not why you do it for the thanks, right?
Yeah, in fact, that's great because I had a conversation with a friend of mine who has similarly occupationally limited his occupational obsession has equally limited his exposure to his children.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but so he's got the and I'm like, dude, being a father is a thankless fucking job. Right. I mean,
you keep on pulling the oar anyway. That's how we do it, right?
Yeah, but it starts to accumulate over time that you realize that why do men carry this burden? There's really no value in it for us. It turns out that we never really have women.
No.
In fact, the only thing we got is each other as friends. Right?
Society, right? Or social, our politics. It's politics.
Well, even that. I mean, you end up with we're disposable. We're disposable. Women treat us as disposable. Our friends don't treat us as disposable. But all the burden we carry for the society and polity, for family, society, and polity,
yes,
is utterly fucking thankless. Yet nothing that the rest of the people depend upon, nothing that women and children depend upon is possible without us doing our thankless duty. Under the absolutely evidence-free belief that we're doing that we're going to be appreciated for it.
Evidence-free. It's true. It's true. What else?
So it's like, not to quote Ayn Rand, but I do not want to do that. But Atlas should just shrug once in a while. Say, fuck y'all.
That's right, and it's okay. I don't know. We sort of do that. I think it's kind of like you let them. That's when you let them go make their mistakes and not help them for a minute, right? And you let them cry about it, and then you get back to work. I think. Okay, I wanted to issue a special thank you for your work today because I was thinking about this. It's like, okay, this is for the audience more than Kurt, but as much for Kurt. Learning this work is hard, right? Just imagine if you're the only one that is trying to figure it out. It's way harder if no one knows what you're talking about or trying to make it come into some kind of mental focus.
Speaking of thankless fucking jobs.
It is totally thankless. In fact, it's negatively thanked, right? It's like it's disappreciated, it's anti-appreciated. There you have it.
Yeah, but look at you. I mean, I'm watching you especially over the past 3 or 4 months. I mean, Jesus Christ, you're amazing now.
Thank you, Kurt. I want to thank you for your efforts. I want to thank you for it because it is.
It's my efforts, your stubbornness.
Well, there's that too, but it's like there's a great value to the nucleating point. You're the nucleating point for this information, and we appreciate your efforts and thank you.
Anyway, well, thank you.
That's a good time to welcome everybody to episode 2029. So hit like and subscribe in the buzz. I don't even know the names of the buzzers, and leave your nice thank you comments to Kurt and everybody. Just have a happy Father's Day and welcome to episode 2029. I don't have much else to say. I didn't have much preparations. I'm working on my mytho-alchemical history triangulation on the problem, and it's too much for Kurt to bear. Even though it's curious to me
It's,
how you.
it isn't really. I'm just was trying to be funny. It
Oh,
doesn't-
it's like this. It's like, to me, it's interesting. Your art history seems the opposite of what autists should be involved in to me. And it's just kind of like very interesting. Art. You studied art, but not, is it art history or art?
I studied art. I had to learn how to do every single one of them:
Wow.
paint, clay, print,
Fascinating.
sculpture. Every drawing. I mean, I studied them all, but of course, you realize I've been doing that since I was tiny. So it's not
All except finger painting.
no, because that gets your fingers dirty. It's like chemistry and biology. It's gross.
Come on, guys.
Or picking up the lawn or anything else like that.
Other stuff your hardware dad wants you to do.
Yeah, so fucking evil. My poor dad has no idea what's going on, right?
He's just a guy. That's like that. You got to give him his kudos for Father's Day too, right? It's all Father's Day for every father, even if the father's an ass. It's okay.
He was an ass. I gotta tell you, my
Well, I know
father
you do
was
it.
an
It's
ass.
Happy Father's Day.
My mother used to say he was broken when I got him. Then why the fuck did you pick it, you stupid woman?
I got nothing to
Honestly,
say.
you know
man.
why? Because
Why?
he was really good looking.
Is that
He was
it?
really good looking. He was from a family with money. All right, and he had he came back from Europe with his little British sports car, and he was all full of muscles, and
There you have it.
he's
That was it was it was easy. It was a slam dunk.
I mean, I know who she was dating as alternatives, and they would have been better life choices. But you got to understand, my father wasn't not successful, right? He was not unsuccessful in life, right? And the thing he was best at, which is politics, he should have fucking done full time. His problem was the alcohol. Once he got over there in the military and got a whole call up in military culture and the drinking culture, it got a hold of him. It got a hold of my nephew.
Hmm.
My nephew's a very interesting kid, right? He's also an amazing fucking soldier. I mean, he's a Doolittle. Come, kill him, come home. Repeat.
Right?
Well, he's anyway, so it got a hold of him. So I basically don't touch anything like drugs or alcohol or anything. I mean, I experimented in college, right? But, and that's why, is because it's too much for risk, because it's got so many members of my family in that generation. It was ridiculous.
Hmm.
Um,
There you have it.
Yeah, I have an interesting. It's like I can't really when I have anesthesia, like I basically have withdrawal, and it goes on for like 90 days. It's horrible.
Oh my Lord.
So it's one of the reasons I'm so I hate surgery. Is that like I had this tooth pulled the other day. I don't even need painkiller. Right? Healing pain doesn't bother me at all. It actually feels it's like lifting weight muscle. It doesn't bother. Healing pain doesn't bother me at all. But the fucking anytime, like if they've given me morphine, the withdrawal on that, it makes me borderline suicidal.
Oh my.
I can't stand it. And it's the same thing for anesthesia. The problem is it takes fucking 90 days for me to get over that shit. So there's some correlation there between
Huh. That's interesting.
these things. Anyway. You're a doctor. I thought you'd find that vaguely.
That is quite interesting. I don't know how an answer for it though. It's like
they're trying to put my father under for having his surgery, and they can't keep him under.
oh, I've seen that. I've been in the surgery and it's like the guy's I'm like, that dude's moving, man. That's really stop it. You better like anesthesia.
What the hell's going on here?
This patient starts doing stuff. It's bad news. It's like they're not supposed to be doing anything, man. It's hard enough to make sure you don't harm them when they're not moving.
Apparently, my sense of humor and gregariousness and irreverence is enough to make people in the nurses laugh a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Because I get a lot of that every time I get a lot of tease every time I come out of surgery.
Sure.
Is that a common thing? I'm sure it's a common thing.
Common, it's like, no, it's not that common, because it's like, it wouldn't be funny if it was.
Oh, I
common.
see.
Right? It's
Right.
like, it's uncommonly funny. It's like, you're extraordinary, Kurt. Thanks.
Anyway, I'll go back to, God damn, what a thankless fucking job. It's thankless to be a man now. And pursuing working on this is thankless, except then I get guys like you and the other guys who actually get it and get good at it. And it's like, see, it's fucking amazing.
It works. It works. And it's like, we're not doing it for the thanks, right? That's not why we're here, guys. So it's okay. And it's okay. And it's good to be among good company, doing
Yes.
good work for the greater society, even if they don't appreciate it yet.
Yeah, look at our top guy. I mean, our top guys are good men. I mean,
That's right.
they're amazing people.
That's right. And so we do it to help organize the other amazing people that have yet to discover it, or that's what we're doing it for, and to create a wider society of such caliber.
Yeah.
Right? And that's sufficient. Thanks. The future that we
Yes,
are generating by our current
That's right.
actions.
Right. To me, it's a moral obligation.
It is. It's like, I got no choice. It's
Yeah.
just it's compulsion. Father's Day edition of the show here. We don't do it for the thanks, though.
No, you do it for moral duty, really. Or you do it just because you want to understand and you're frustrated. And understanding makes it less frustrating. It really does. I mean,
even better, it's to punch the bad guys in the nose.
well, okay, there's that part.
That's its own thanks in and of itself. But to be able to articulate what is going on is
Well,
the value.
so look at okay. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, it's to be able to even articulate what is going on clearly and unequivocally and undeniably. That is its own reward.
Yes.
And here we are.
It's a funny. I was thinking about this while we're talking. I'm like, so we get the thankless task, and almost nobody appreciates it. Then I like, well, what does Lindsay do? Well, Lindsay has to do this for like, I don't know. He has to read that stuff, understand and think about it. And I'm like, well, at least, and he gets some nods for it. And it's like, well, I'm giving compliments for that.
I'm tipping my hat to him because he's just rocking, man.
Here's to Lindsay's ability to
hold his nose
and understand that absolutely dishonest, deceitful bullshit that he has to wade through that we call left.
But he doesn't have to, but he chooses to, and he's doing it as his duty, I'm sure. The same.
Well, at least he used to complain about it, a little bit, and say, I can't believe I have to read this, so along those lines.
No, we thank him for it because now we don't have to.
Yes. It's like, well, I found I got into this because of Stephen Hicks, Professor
Right.
Stephen Hicks. And I wrote Stephen a couple of times. I said, Jordan Peterson's getting all this credit, right? But I mean, honestly, this is your work. I mean, you're the guy who mapped this all out and explained it all to us, right? I mean, back in the 90s or wherever that was. And he made an effort. I didn't talk to him about this, but he made an effort to go out there, but he's just too fucking nice a guy. Right? Peterson's a nice guy, but he's got a
mean edge to him.
He's got an edge to him, right? And then you got Lindsay's come out there, and he's like he's a little more comfortable not being a nice guy.
Yeah, he's more of a brawler. He doesn't care.
And I come out and I'm like, well, being a nice guy is totally fucking useless when you're trying to do research on the rats, right? So you've just got to do it, and you've got to be completely numb to it, right? And so Lindsay avoids the third rail, which of course I step on, the female subject, all the time. Lindsay avoids the third rail. Peterson's too afraid of it that he even says he won't go there, right?
Yep.
And Hicks, he stepped out. And then you have people that like come close, and the truth is so horrifying to them that they evade it, which is like Nassim Taleb, right? And then you have all the people that are trying to educate us without telling us the truth, which is they end up being apologists, which is like Steven Pinker, actually the most of the academy. So
I don't see them as being valuable in that regard. I don't. The academy guys are going to play. They're going to continue the game. That's all they're going to do.
Right. Then you get someone like Kevin McDonald, who's a proper Kevin and McDonald is a proper intellectual, right? I mean, he's a proper psychologist.
Okay.
And he does the proper. He's like somewhat like Lindsay's much more rigorous than Lindsay, but he goes through and says, okay, this is the underlying problem. And he gets he gets basically canceled career-wise, every otherwise, completely, except that he's right.
Other than being right.
He's right. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, he's not even like Ricardo Duchesne. He gets his book is really wonderful in the proper intellectual tradition, because he started out as a Marxist, so he started out as a literary thinker. And so as he decomposed the Western strategy, which he only got down to what he calls aristocratic egalitarianism, or the Faustian spirit. I mean, these are literary, continental literary frames, right? They're not Anglo-scientific like my work, or even Kevin's work. Kevin's work is pretty Anglo-scientific. So you get somebody like Ricardo, and he goes out, and the thing is, he'll say because he's from the literary frame, and he's from the left originally, and he originally came our direction. He'll say offensive things, right? That it's easy to get for the other side to get offensive at, because he's a literary thinker. It's a little harder to be offensive with the Anglos, which is like, think of as Steve Saylor, right? Steve Saylor,
yep.
Or Kevin McDonald, or me. It's harder to, because you're basically basing everything. You're basing everything on science, and so they have to go into science denial, and they have to attack you as a person.
The lefties don't have a problem with that, though. They don't have a problem with anything, because it's like they're not really based on anything. They just do whatever they feel like doing. It has nothing, no basis.
It's responsibility avoidance in order to maintain herd limit of any offense to the herd. And so technically speaking, it's a via negativa, right? I mean, they're trying to avoid responsibility, and one of the responsibilities they're trying to avoid is internal management, right?
That's not their problem. It's God's problem. God made them like they are. Yeah. They refuse all responsibility. It's like, what?
Oh God!
It's self-regulate. It's unregulated self-regulation, right?
This has ruined me.
What?
This the past since September. Was it September?
What? How was that?
I finished with physics. Sometime I think I spent August on physics, right? I think that was July and August, because you made me realize if I was going to start with first principles, I had to start with physics. And then on and off this whole, I've been sick and fucked up all winter, but on and off, I'm focusing on this manosphere thing, which really involves me trying to
It was August.
listen
Remember
to
talking to you about this in August last year. It's like this manosphere thing is troubling, isn't it?
it's just so
Just deranged Kurt for a year.
it's so pissed me off because I don't
I'm sorry.
I like thinking women are yummy. I really do, you know, and it's and I want to, and I'm and for me, really, what do you call it? Controlling women is, you know, the women who want to manage things. This is really advantageous to me, right? It's not a problem for me because I'll just here's the money. I don't want to know. I want to work on my stuff in the business, and here's the money, and
Right,
which
right,
makes them really happy, right? Because
right,
they're sovereign now, right? They have agency, they're sovereign,
right.
right? So I really, for me, women were amazingly helpful. I mean, creatures. I mean, I'm very happy. But then again, you know, I'm like a fucking rock, which you know, I'm stubborn as fuck, right? So if women get out of line, I just tell them, and they like that too,
No,
right?
that's
I don't.
appropriate. That's right.
That's not okay. I'm not going to do that. That's wrong, right? I mean,
But so the issue is they're gonna test the edges.
yeah, but it doesn't bother me. It's like
No,
my
that's okay. That's okay. So what's the problem then? What's the rub?
the problem is politics. Is we let them vote and we let them go to university where they use their idiocy to.
No, the issue is no. So yeah, and I kind of am to this opinion at the moment, which is that you just have to educate the men folk separately.
And we have to educate women so they know what they're. I mean, we're told what our problems are as men, you know.
I know there's no shortage of people telling the men what their problems are.
Why aren't we telling women what their problem is? I mean, so
They just
so
won't hear you. They can't hear it. They can't hear you tell them because you have no authority to tell them.
well, yeah, I mean, they lie and deny, not only to others, but primarily to themselves,
Right.
because they lie and deny to themselves because it would mean they have to self-regulate. In other words, they'd have to listen to their emotions instead of revel in them. And so once you realize women are looking for excuses to revel in their emotions,
It's an indulgence, right?
it's just a form of indulgence, right? It's
Right.
sort of how men indulge in, I don't know, sex and porn and whatever. I mean, I like to watch pretty girls too. I mean, I'm not gonna.
Right.
I mean, I'll indulge in that all day long, right?
Just saying.
Well, I don't have a problem, but women like to indulge in their emotions, like to indulge in attention seeking, and it's just as evil as what men do. The problem is that it's more seditious instead of overtly criminal. So the problem is that we can teach women because we used to. We have to teach women equally to suppress their misbehavior as we have men. I mean,
There was an interesting article that I saw this week that was related to this. A bus driver, the young girl is trying to get on the bus, and he refused to allow her to enter the bus because the way she was dressed, he called it sexual harassment and refused to give her a ride.
love it.
I thought that was pretty good, man. It's like, that's funny right there, because you know it's a form of discipline, right?
Yes.
It's an external application of discipline. It's like, no, you're misbehaving. Stop it. You can't get on the bus. And he drove away.
I have a story. Oh God, I'm great. I tell this story. This is great. But to me, it's the women who are mean that bothers me, right? This woman named Elizabeth. She worked for our tech company,
Yeah.
in administrative, and she used to try to find fault with everybody for oppressing her. Who was oppressing her? She was just a C word, you know. She was a C word. And so then you have this other girl, Cheryl. Now Cheryl is like, she's a hippie that learned how to program.
Okay.
Right. And so she's purely for the money, and she used to come in and she liked to have her earrings because she liked the feeling of her earrings on her, right? And her hair, like the feeling of her hair. And she was always moving like this, and her boobs were always moving like this, right? And so I was like, do talk to her like this
Right,
because
right, because I'll get distracted.
I
Shiny
can't
thing.
like I know how to look at a woman's eye focus, right?
Right,
When I was younger, my social anxiety was enough that I had trouble looking directly into eyes. So I would look at the bridge of the nose,
right, right. Pick a
right?
spot.
Or the easy thing to do is look at mouths because it actually helps you understand.
Right.
So and then once I got over, I got over all that, I can look at eyes. But I used to talk to her like this because she'd come in with the with
Just,
no bra on and do all this stuff, and I'm like,
just stop it. Stop.
it's not fair. It's just not fair. And I'm like,
I'm trying to work here.
and
sweetheart.
but I got to like her so much because she's such a genuine, sweet person.
Right,
But she made me laugh all the time, and she never knew why I was laughing. Of course, she thinks it's because she's being funny or I'm charming, and I'm just like trying to control myself the entire time that I'm talking to her because she's doing all this girly shit, which is completely feminine. I mean, it's extremely feminine, right? I mean, behavior. And she's trying to talk to me about serious stuff like software design or customer management or project budgets or God knows what. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, you know how much willpower it takes whenever I talk to you? I don't mind because it's kind of a joy, but I can't sit here and just look at your tits the whole time you're talking to me. I mean, because that's what my brain is trying to do. Jesus.
impulse control, man. You get one of these, raise a glass for you, have some coffee.
And then you have the opposite. We had a girl, I can't remember her name right now. I can visualize her, but she was like, a Miss Washington State, one of those, beauty pageant award winners. I always thought she was a bitch. Like, and she's one of my high performers, right? Because in the business, if you have a hot chick, that makes customers more likely to deal with you, right?
How hard is that to figure
It's
out?
hard to. So I do my normal thing, which is every once in a while I invite some of my employees over for breakfast to my house, and I make fresh scones and coffee, and we sit around. And it's a way for them to tell me anything, right? Well, this woman comes over and she's got she comes over with some others, and they go all feminist on me. I'm like, why do you think I do this
In my house.
in my house? Why do
Yeah,
you think I do this? Is it because if you're a valuable employee, I want to have a relationship with you so that I can retain you. That's why I do this, right? And if you know that you can come to my house and talk to me, you know that I'll talk to you, right? And she's like keeping the whole air of whatever. And I begin to wonder, are these women actually think you're interested in them? Because I've had that happen too many times where a woman thinks I'm in, and I'm not. I mean, I could fucking care less. In fact, I loved my wife so much, most other women didn't exist
right,
except as men with boobs, right? I mean, they're just employees in my universe,
right,
right?
right.
Except my gay friend, one of my project management staff was a gay woman who I still love to this day. And so you just sort of look at it like that. And then there's some girls that are the admin chicks, and they're cute and adorable and stuff, but it's not like you want to have a relationship or even have sex with them.
No.
They're just flowers. Right? They're like having flowers in the office, right? They make it better for everyone, right?
That's right.
But then, some women think that you're in it. I'm like, no, never. If I'm trying to have a relationship with you, I'm selfish. It's going to be because it has business value.
Right, that's it.
There's no other reason. If the business value might be that sometimes women are really safe to talk to. So if you have employee issues or personnel issues, women are really good therapists for that stuff. And so I tend to use, like, especially my recruiters for that kind of nonsense. And so I'm really close to my female recruiters. But it's just like, why do, it's like, you get the one way or the other. It's like you don't exist, or women think that you're interested in them, or once in a while you get women that you're just friends with because
That's right.
it's just a mutually, and I don't disagree with, I sort of disagree with you can't have women as friends. And maybe that's because I see friends in the work context,
Right.
right? But because I had a friend, April, in college, when I had my girlfriend, Chris. No, and it's like there's no sexual compatibility between me and April at all, right? But we're just friends, right? So we'd go to lunch and talking about nonsense once together, schoolwork and stuff like that. There's plenty of women I like to go to lunch with or talk with at work, right? Because we're talking about business or whatever. And these women were friends of mine, right? I mean, I enjoyed their friendship.
Right.
It's probably true that there's some recognition of sexual energy there,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean you're going to act on it. At least for
Right.
me, I'm not. Right? I mean, there has to be some attraction, but the attraction just be friendship. I can think of a woman who's very successful marketer today, right? She's very short, she's from Eastern Washington,
Right.
right? And I'm like, this chick has promise. So I'm just gonna work on her confidence a little bit, right? And it's like I wanted to be friends with her, but I was too afraid that other people
Manage it.
no, it was afraid that people would
Oh,
misunderstand
sure.
that because there's a possible compatibility there. It's like part of the value of being shorter is that there's enough tall women who are really power chicks that nobody thinks anything's happening. Does that make sense?
I get
So,
you.
but anyway, I just hate this whole fucking work you guys have made me do on the manosphere. Could just destroy. I mean, I bitch about this probably about it
It's true. It's
once a video.
It's about it's an ongoing lament. I've
Yeah,
heard
I don't like, because once you realize they're responsibility evasion machines,
it.
and it's the evasion of responsibility and friction that it's driving them.
It's just children.
It's,
It's like children.
it's horrible, and it makes me sad. Makes me sad.
Why does it make you sad though? It's like there's the interesting thing. It's like the underlying reality has not changed one bit. Your awareness of the situation has changed, is the only function that has occurred.
Yeah. Well,
And
maybe
it's like, so now you're aware of it and it irritates you somehow, and it wasn't irritating you before
sad.
or something, and it makes you sad. Sorry,
because
Kurt.
because I like the peer relationship. I think that's part of my character is I just like peerages. It's part of the Asperger's syndrome is you see everybody as a peer.
Okay.
Like my wife Alora, I mean, I was just in court with her the other day, right? I think she's a goddess, right? I absolutely love her, right? To pieces. I still do. I mean,
Right.
I can't live with her because her need to control every fucking, everything is just, I can't tolerate it right anymore because since I just lost that ability. But I mean, otherwise, she's like intelligent, sane, competent, honest. I mean, she's a fucking saint. Well, I like thinking about women like that. I mean,
Okay.
with her, it's actually true,
Right.
right? I mean, it's like she's fucking perfect. Right. I mean, every other woman I've been with is like not quite up to that standard. Right. With her, it's like it's rationality wins. And I just the idea that that's possible is so wonderful. But the idea that for the mass of guys, it's a chaotic catastrophe.
Like a big nightmare.
And the letting women loose into polity and economy has destroyed every competitive advantage that the civilization has ever had in just just a couple generations. Like fuck, they're all Pandoras, right? And every one of them opens every box they can find.
They are obligated to test the limits of the toleration of men.
Yes.
And the men are obligated to set the limits. And that men have failed to set the limits is the problem.
You're
And
right.
it's like the issue is this, is that they are infinitely adaptable because they have magical thinking going on. And
So what
they
you're
can-
saying, okay.
they can adapt to more than we will allow them to adapt to, they will adapt to.
So where I said that we failed to regulate them legally, right? At political scale, we've also failed to continue to regulate them interpersonally.
In any shape, way, shape, or form, they're absolutely unregulated. Since it goes back to the probably.
And they think regulation is any
oppression.
different from it's just parenting, right? And I don't want to have to parent my wife. That really bothers me, right? But you're telling me that we can't build a society without we can't build a civilization without parenting. Well, I guess the truth is we have to parent men and women. It's just that men are so dangerous. We have to.
We're obligated to keep them in line, and it's like we see some of this. It's like they're being unregulated at the low end on the left at the moment.
Yes.
Which is to say, they're sporadic. Well, this is they will call the fascists coming out of me, which is our side abhors disorganized violence, and that's what we're getting is disorganized. It's eruptations out of the quantum background of the society is just eruptations of violence because the pressure is too low.
Mm-hmm.
It's boiling out, and it's like we need more pressure to suppress
right.
the misbehavior of men, specifically on the left, and women in general.
So why are we avoiding the responsibility of containing, constraining?
But it's not. We're not avoiding it. It's just it's unaware of the fact that
That's what I thought.
it's a failure of awareness, and it's like coming to consciousness after sedation. It's like whoa, that was a mistake.
That was a mistake.
This is going to be a bad hangover, boys. It's all it is.
And these fucking guys. I mean,
that's all it is.
I'm thinking of Adam Schiff, who I think of
yes.
As a panderer.
Yes.
I can get attention by.
That's the
Michael Moore is another one.
So the women are doing the same thing. They're seeking attention, and the men are seeking attention from the women that are seeking attention and getting advantage by that mechanism. And then telling the women they get to get any attention they can get and get to do whatever they want, and they deserve it, and that's their right, and you are obligated to pay attention to them and listen to their nonsense.
I've been trying to find any women online who talk about this subject and aren't stupid.
I've seen a couple of them.
There's a couple. It's a girl named Just Pearly Things, which is a redhead.
Okay.
She's athletic redhead who doesn't try to, wear the makeup on the whole thing.
Right.
So in other words, somebody I would obviously respect. She quotes the science, and she's got it, she's got like 75% of the concepts down. And she was talking to somebody the other day, and she said, look, the women are talking about a high value woman. And I'm like, you don't understand it. High value woman. I hate the word submission, but I'll get to that. High value woman is just feminine. That's all it is. There's nothing else.
Wait. With soft curves, no sharp edges. I mean, it's like and inoffensive and pleasant, right? Yes. And socially agreeable. It's just very nice to be around person, right?
And then that's what a high value woman is. He's talking about what about her job and this other stuff. It's like nobody for cares. A man, that's no man cares. The only thing we value. So you wonder why. I mean, you see these guys, they go out and it's like sports guys, wags, right? What do they want? They get a girl. They get a model. right? Or
How
so
hard is this to get?
they get
Do the math, kids. How hard is this to figure out? It's like,
just want a girl. Girls are valuable. So some of us, I mean, to me, I like smart women, right? Obviously. Um, so I want somebody who I can talk to, right? My ex-wife. And so you want that. But to most guys, it's just whether you're feminine or not. And all this other stuff, well, she's successful, Scott, but no guy fucking cares. The problem is that doesn't take it far enough. It's that for women who want a successful guy, the guy's problem is he doesn't want you to her, right? To cause him to compromise. And so the more strong, independent woman you are, the more you build a life that the guy has to adapt to when you're the one who's able to adapt, not him, the more compromises he has to make to have you.
that's right.
And so to him, he's like, you're looking for this, but to him, you're just expensive.
That's right. It's very expensive.
You're just a cost. And I try to explain this to women as I got more successful in life. So my wife would adapt with me, right, and facilitate really quite successfully my success.
Right.
It's part of my success. But if you've got multiple conflicting careers,
now you got a dissonance problem.
now you got a distance problem. So you just want feminine. It's all. If there's nothing else to be had, right?
It's like that. If you ask a guy, what you get, what do you want? One thing, it's gonna be a girl.
Yes.
It's like, and that's the end of the story. I don't need an executive.
And what I want is one I can keep happy. Right? I just want one, and I want one I can keep happy. And femininity is it's the intrinsic good. As Sergeant Brad used to say, women are soft and they smell good, and you can't get that many places. Right? And I mean, it's just that simple, is that, and for a guy, women make you calm. They have
Damn it, and you're out in the world getting boiled in the quantum ethers of hell, and you gotta come back home and get soothed down again.
You get soothed down. Women are calming. They're wonderful. That's why they try to touch you, is because of the minute they touch you, you get endorphins and you get to be calm. So that's why whenever they know they've really flipped your bit, they try to get their hands on you, which is hysterical. Because once you know what's going on, it kind of ruins the effect a little bit. At least it did for me.
I know this game.
It's just ruined. It's like I said, I don't want to know.
You're playing on my neurotransmitters again.
Yeah, but it works both ways. So Amanda, everybody knows I loved Amanda, right? She's adorable, cute monster, right? I mean, and so she's starting to go off on me, and I just pick her up off the ground. And I set her on one of those concrete, parking things, right? So she can't get her feet on the ground. And I'm like, I don't remember what I said, but all I'm doing is this. I'm a guy, right? If I say it, that's what it means. That's all it means.
It's very simple.
The act of being lifted off her feet and that was somehow comforting.
They like to feel small.
Right. And I'm like, okay, fine, or when anything's not quite out of order, like I usually pick most women up and just hold them in my arms and walk around with them a little bit, right? And they just get, they either laugh or they get funny. But I used to take Amanda and bench press her over my head. And it's like, for some reason, that's the similar effect as you get when they just touch you, right? I mean, it's just like, oh, boo, whatever the sweet thing is. Veronica called me Bunny. I don't know. She had a lot of funny Slavic names, right? Amanda, everybody's got their little favorite. The only thing I don't want to hear is Kurt. Because if I hear Kurt, it means I'm in trouble. Or Doolittle. Or Doolittle.
Yeah.
If I get Doolittle. Then I'm in trouble. But if I get a cute name or Deers, so we both are affected by the physicality of the other, and it's kind of beautiful if we just fucking go along with it. Just go along with it, but this idea that women are going to be competent in politics when there's so much at stake, unless they're educated in it, is completely fucking insane. I mean, I've been telling people for years, you don't understand what the data says. Every woman that comes into a company reduces its competitiveness. And so, but it makes it so, because it turns it from a military into a society. Whenever you add a single woman, you start getting a society, and the society limits competition. And so it's like
it's crazy. I mean, it's just because and I got nothing to say because it goes to HR all over the place.
Right.
And it's just awful because it's like in my business, it's just the doctors get in trouble for being too mean.
Yeah.
Because of people, and we lost a good surgeon in our town because he's too mean, because he's trying to make shit work.
Because he's right.
And he's right. And it's like, and it's like, okay. And it's just the political
The
moment.
problem is women don't reach the even state. They just keep degenerating because it's never, their hyperconsumption means it's never enough.
They have no limit to their potential for adaptability. You got to understand that. And I'll go back to our model from yesterday, which was that we're going to be in Babylon. And it's like being the beta male was the right way to be for a persistent social order inside such a violent circumstance, a Bronze Age Mesopotamia. But being a woman is like this, man. There can be a new dad coming in anytime with a bronze dagger, and you got to be ready to deal with it, because it's like, how are you going to adapt to that one, mom? Right? And that's the woman thing. They are hyper adaptable, and they will adapt to the circumstance and to the limit. They will behave.
Well, let's hold on a second. They will adapt to the circumstance by evasion of any cost. So I think it's important to complete the sentence and do it fully transaction. So the reason they'll go into it is that they'll avoid imposing frictions on the facilitation of cooperation with a group. They'll try to minimize potential for offense. Well, so that's an interesting thing. We say they maximally self-adapt by tolerating and enabling non-adaptation. So let's get this correct. What's going on? They're facilitating infantilization, a non-adaptation, by removing frictions, right? By being self-adaptive through submission. So it's not true that, it's like whenever it's like,
yeah. They're not adapting as much as they're avoiding responsibility. And it's water. It's just water. They just are water, and they will conform to the vessel within which they are, with social order, within which they are poured.
Yes, exactly. And that's all. So that's when I say what's bothered me since last September, when I started working on this, whatever it was, is that, because I went right from physics to the manosphere thing, because I just didn't fucking get it. And it's because it's the dating thing.
Yes.
Because it's collapsed so fast, I didn't understand it. Right? I mean, I just couldn't comprehend how fast the market for mating and dating and marrying had collapsed. It just was. It's a market failure. And so I went into that. And the outcome is I realized that women are just responsibility evasion machines. In order to make themselves safest in any circumstance, they limit the need to adapt to the external forces. Well, is this always true? No, but the way they get people is through care, seduction, or undermining, right?
Right.
And so they have their two ways of seducing you in that are not necessarily truthful. Doesn't mean they're unaffected. They're just not.
Not necessarily truthful as such, and that's almost an evasion.
Yeah, it's just
They are not based on reality
they're
at
not.
all.
There's no reality involved at all, right?
Right. So it's like this. It's like, and if you believe something and it's not, and they know it's not true, it's okay too.
Right. So
They're absolutely willing to allow you to believe whatever it is you believe, especially if it's to their advantage. It's magic.
So look at a female reaction to almost every unpleasant reality that would cause us to need to adapt. And they will simply throw spaghetti at the wall of rationalizations and excuses, any kind of magical thinking possible, rather than determine that there is a behavioral change they need to make, so that they have to self-monitor their emotions so they can increasingly adapt them themselves. It's almost like unless they go into a circumstance that forces them to adapt, they won't. In other words, they need to be afraid of frictions in order to adapt to a thing. This is what I don't like. I don't like this. It's like it's not the. It's like they're incentivized to create disorder unless we create order. So it's not just that it's their shit testing is just it's like a ant's pheromone signal, right? To tell us to create more order.
Draw a line here, dude.
Well,
It's just draw a line here, dude, is the signal.
Right, and we're trying to make them happy when we shouldn't be.
That's right. You're not supposed to try to make them happy. You're supposed to draw a line and tell them to calm down.
Yes.
And it's like I said yesterday, we were talking about it. It's like we need to.
But isn't that disturbing? I find that incredibly disturbing. So you see,
wait.
You're different. You're different from me.
Wait,
you can look back.
I hear it. You hear that? Hear that sound? It's the smallest violin ever, Kurt. You hear it? It's like that. I heard it. It was like it was. My heart cries out for you, Kurt.
I know you do this to me all the time because you're like, well, that's just the way it is. It's the way it's got to be, and I will hold on to this romantic lament that I've got.
No,
right?
Like you got to know when to punch the shark in the nose, man. It's okay.
I don't want to punch the chick in the nose.
No,
I
the
like
shark.
girls.
It's the
Girls
indwelling shark.
Girls are fun.
We're in agreement. So what you have to learn how to do then is do it like that. I like lift her up and put her on the cement where she can't touch her ground. And that's a funny way to do it. This is not how this is going. This is not what's happening. You're mistaken.
I have a friend, she's quite tall. I don't know if she's 6 feet or not, right? Friend, yeah.
Right.
Work friend. So she was, I don't know if she's 6 feet, maybe 5'10", probably 5'10". Okay. And so she was dancing with her future husband, right? They were met, and he picked her up off the ground. She said, "Wow, that feeling was something else." Now, men say it makes them feel small, right? But of course, that feeling, she's like, it just she said it made a whole other thing going on there. And it's because I wasn't around enough men big enough to make me feel small. And she loved the feeling. Of course, she's married to the guy. I adore this woman too. She's quite amazing. I think she's at Google now. She's at Google now.
Good, man. So it is. The issue is this: we need to draw our lines, and it's like I think that's why I was alluding to yesterday to make some kind of lapel pin or marker that says "just keep your woke shit away." It's an anti-woke tag. You know what I mean? We have to put out this anti-woke tag.
And no woke permitted. And
because it's like that, it's just because then that's the men just drawing the line. It's like, well, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to even smell it. I don't want to get a whiff of it.
It goes back to what I'll say. We used to have all these, we took for granted all these rituals that we've developed that put a positive spin on getting men to be gentlemen as much as possible and women to be ladies as much as possible, because both being a gentleman and a lady is counter.
That's right. It's the opposite of what you want to do. It's all about impulse control, man. It's the most.
But it was fun, it was fun to flirt with girls. It was fun. It was fun. I mean, and today it's like the music is angry, it's rebellious, angry, whatever. And we were just playing, before, and play was fun. It was enjoyable. We weren't trying to we weren't trying to create all these lies about the world so that so that we didn't have to adapt. We
That's right.
celebrated we celebrated success at the rituals of adaptation to each other that made it playful, and it was joyous. And I'm very sad that that's not for the people who are out there today that are in this fucking meat grinder,
It's rough.
right? Because you basically have the desirable guys who are actually not good, right? I mean,
They have no incentive to behave.
no, and they're just plowing through these chicks who are burnt. They don't realize they're burning their adaptability. We think of it as bonding, but they're burning their adaptability. Because, after you've had like 5 lovers, a woman's basically burned it. I mean, it doesn't take much.
That's
I
right.
mean, after it's only like 5 or 6 guys, and she's burned it.
She's
And
totally
so,
she can't think she can't trust a man.
right. So, well, no, she's just not. She's burned her bonding,
Hmm.
and so what's happened is that marriage. If you've had less than 5 lovers, your marriage is going to last, and if you have more than 5 lovers, your marriage isn't going to last. I mean, I can't remember the exact percentages, but they're overwhelming. It's like 80 and 80 or something like that. And so, I'm like, don't burn your bonding, if you want to be happy in a long time. But, we forget that.
Well, that's it. The women are not trained. They don't understand the psychology associated with this whole thing, because they believe they have a right to misbehave as much as they think men misbehave. And that men, they have the opportunity to misbehave as the teenager boy thinks he might want to misbehave, and will never get the opportunity to misbehave in such a fashion as the young ladies have the absolute ability to misbehave. And
Correct.
I believe they do, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's another case. You just said it perfectly, but men it's like when guys look in the mirror and they're like, I look good enough to go out and get a chick, when it's not true. And
It's just a self-delusion.
well, but it's necessary self-delusion. Whereas women look at the mirror and they find every fault they have, even though they're, from a guy's perspective,
There's perfectly
80% of the women are okay, right? I mean, and 80 for women, 80% of men are invisible.
right. It's like that. It's fascinating. It's like there's then the psychology of it's what's interesting. So that young women are not taught by older women the psychology of women and aging, and how behavior plays into it, like life choices play into it. Because it's like the 50-year-old woman that hasn't got married or kids is not happy, in my understanding. And it's like, but the psychology of it's not taught. They teach other oppressive bullshit instead. And it's like, and instead of trying to help the people engage with life in a manner that causes them to adapt to the real circumstances that will enable them to engage in a life that they will find more fulfilling and
Correct.
generative of good feelings, then that's the real tragedy, that we're not causing them to understand what reality is based upon, as opposed to
and it's really simple too. As you decline in age, your ability to attract attention declines. But if you're a mother, you never lose the attention of your children unless you're really bad at it, right? Mothers can always get attention. So you always have that vehicle available to you if you invest in it. So I always usually say pretty, fertile, beautiful, graceful.
Right.
If you want to be pretty when you're young, right? Which is pretty is the non-sexual.
Yeah.
It's the promise of fertility. And you're fertile, which is when you're really attractive between 17, 18 and 26, 28. And then you want to be beautiful, which is in your 30s and 40s, and then you want to have grace when you're an older woman. So what do those terms mean? They mean how you can use the fact that you're a female to get the attention that provides you the emotional stimulation that you want. So, just look at pretty, fertile, beautiful, graceful as a life plan, and try to say, well, how do I move between these states? And you're always investing in the next state, right? So if a woman does that, she's going to be able to maintain her ability to attract attention, right? And add, I don't want to use use her influence, which is something we all want, as we want to be influenced by women.
Right.
Right. So you can use that. But if instead you are told you're supposed to be selfish and masculine and competitive and adversarial and successful, you're going to burn through your pretty. You're beautiful and you're graceful. And the problem is when you get out there to the end, right, where you no longer can attract attention because you're fertile, especially, you will have all these investments that allow you to redeem an attention, which is what drives women, is attention. So it's really obvious what's going on and what to do about it. So why do we tell women all these lies?
Well,
Because
they're being encouraged to hyper indulge in the easy attraction that they get in their youth. That they can attract attention like nobody's business, and they are being told to indulge in it, and at the expense of generating the long-term investments in relationships. And so they're not warned that this passes. Your easy attraction or the attention is going to fade over time as your youth fades, and they aren't taught about that. And so then they run into their 30s and they're like, and the men talk about this as the wall, right? When the attention starts to fade and there's younger women that are seeking attention in a more effective way than the 30-year-olds are able to gather.
Fertility is a temporary asset.
That's it.
That has to be replaced by grace eventually, right? And so you can be a classy lady and command attention because you're older and wiser and whatever, or you can try to keep being a trash lady. And that wears, once there's no longer the pretense that there's sexual access, you don't have anything left because you're not desirable anymore. And I just keep wondering, I was like, I keep seeing these women that think they're attractive, and I'm like, dude, let me show you what attractive women look like. You can almost barely not tell they're wearing makeup.
Yeah.
Right. They're fit and they behave well. Right. They're not trying to get attention cheaply. They're trying to get attention expensively. And so,
by investment, right.
Right. So I just look at it as like, this is why I keep saying, it looks like a class problem to me. And we're just been increasingly aware of the class problem, even in education. Is it just a class problem? In other words, isn't it the fact that we're just pumping more and more women from lower and lower classes into more and more into the academy?
Socially, social institutions of social or cultural creation.
Yeah, I mean, that's all that's happening is we're putting all these, because if you look at what's going on, the number of smart people coming out of college isn't changing.
No.
Right. And it's almost all, it's not all male, but it's almost all male. Right. And then you get down into where there's no men and it's predominantly women. right? It's all the education. It isn't education. It's just indoctrination. It's social construction, psychology, sociology.
So it's a form of Leninism at work there.
It is just Leninism at work. And so you see what's happening is that, it hasn't creeped up into the middle classes. Sure. But I mean, upper class women are upper class women because they've been the subject of high investment parenting, the way that upper class men are the subject of high investment parenting. So what we've done is because we've put women in the workforce, we've institutionalized low investment parenting, and we've funded the mass production of lower class behavior. And we've created an academy that's financed by women who are demonstrating these lower class behaviors and who are susceptible to being programmed by them, because it tells them they don't have to make high investments. In other words, adapt to the world as it is. They can use seduction and the promise of their fertility and their ability to be bitchy to create social destruction. I mean, and we don't slap them around, and I'm like, that's where things are going to end up. They're going to end up with it being a very unpleasant correction at some point, because there aren't any female societies for a reason. They're not survivable. When we talk about why there's only 3 forms of society,
There's no persistence.
It's not survivable. Whereas there's three systems that we talk about in the triangle of evolutionary strategies.
Right.
But if you notice, the systemic version of the strategy, which is religion, is still a male construction of the female method of warfare. So there are even religious societies which are using the female means of coercion and organization. They might be using the feminine strategy, but they're still systematized into polities by males. There aren't any female societies. That's not really true. There are small groups today which still have matrilineal households, but that's because they're so desperately poor, and because historically for the group, so many men are killed in war. So they lost the technology of patrilineality. It's not that they developed the innovation of matrilineality. They lost the intelligence. It's like losing fire, for Christ's sake. It's not a small thing. If you lose enough men,
it is, because it's like it deranges everybody in some
right.
fashion. There
are none of them that I know of that are extant that are not dying. In other words, I'm thinking of a couple of them off the top of my head. There's a famous one in China. And there's people that go visit it now because it's fashionable, right? To go visit, but it's a dying group population, right? They're dying. There's no competitive advantage. So you're not going to get chick power. It's never going to happen.
No, this is about we're at the apex of. I think we're at the apex of that impulse, which is that
I think one of the jobs
high tide mark.
So one of the jobs we have when finishing our work, which we're going to start shortly, is that if we write it down in a book, a Bible of the law, not that we're equal, that we are in equilibrium between 2 opposing forces that need to discover adaptation through cooperation. If we do that, maybe that we can prevent future generations from repeating the error of the Romans, the error of the French. Yes, that's what went wrong in France. They became effeminate. And what's gone wrong in modernity. Now the Spartans failed because of women, because they set it up so that the women controlled the property. The Romans failed because of women, because they didn't reproduce enough of the aristocracy and some other things, and because they had too many rights. The French failed because femininity, because of the church, became a status symbol. which is where you get these funny French words from that sound effeminate, because effeminacy was a virtue signal. And then you see effeminacy today as a virtue signal because of the rebellion of women. But that only was happened because we put women into the workforce and in the polity without continuing the scaling up the suppression of female antisocial behavior that was extant under the common law. So we've got these 4 cycles at least. You know, the Greek, the Roman, the continental, and the international, or the age of sails, how I think about it, but the
Right.
globe. And in every time we've let women get out of hand, we've paid the cost of it. So what do? We write down the law so that it's an immutable science that is hopefully there for posterity, for our offspring, so this never happens again. Or at least until we invent some new goddamn problem that lets
Well,
Pandora out of the box.
So I have to say this, it's like the box, the Pandora in the box. The box is generated by the social constraints created by men, which are eroded by other men, which take advantage of the opportunity generated by letting Pandora out to
Yeah.
gain something in the social order at the expense of the social order. They unrestrained Pandora to gain advantage. Men knocking other men down to do it and open up the vessel.
I'm trying to think when it's been anything other than political problem. I don't know, man. As soon as you make it that men have to be responsible for the commons and women have to be responsible for babies, before you have an opinion, you sort of got there. And the problem is you got to get responsibility before you have rights. What did I
That's
just
very
do?
reasonable to me. I don't have a problem with that. It's like it goes.
It's just a theory of incentives. It's not even moral. It's not about a morality or any other fairness or anything else. You just look at the animal and give it the right incentives. We should have Brandon here talk about dogs again. He'll probably explain how it works in dogs.
It
Shows
works
us
like
not-
that in
we're not
people
special.
too.
I need another cup of coffee.
That's right. So what we'll do, we'll break and then we'll get some more coffee. And you want to go?
We're just gonna pause though, right? Yeah.
If you like, I don't know, whatever works for you.
That's
fine.
fine.
I'll
Because
put it on
Brad,
pause.
look at this.
I see.
There's like a sip left.
I might have a whiff. I'm on the theme. I'll put it on pause and we'll reconvene.
Okay.
Our pausing. We're back, Kurt. I have coffee.
Well, for the audience, Dr. Brad and I have been recounting our life experiences.
It's awful. Shake it off. Just dust off.
If it hadn't been for my health, my life would have been awesome. My health has been a nightmare. My whole somewhere it started somewhere in college, but
It's a challenge.
My
It's a
health-
challenge. It's a guiding force. The physicality is a guiding force, and it's not to be trifled with. It's huge.
Still here. God hasn't taken me yet, so I don't know.
He's
you
got
know.
more work for you, buddy.
I guess I just wish he'd communicate more clearly and with less pain.
Right? Don't send the Red Queen again.
Well, what did I want to talk about? I want to talk about being in court the other day
Okay.
and watching other guys. And I'm going to pick an outlier, right? But there's a guy who's spent 10 years in prison, right?
Okay.
What's the guy's real problem? He's lucky if his IQ is 90. right? And so our world is not really good for guys with IQs under 100.
Rough. It's rough. 'Cause
And
it's like their utility is quite limited.
and we don't give them the rigor that we used to give them, right? We treat everybody as a potential, we give everybody the false promise they can join the upper middle class.
Oh my, right.
And this is part of why that we're putting, half the people through college, even though only technically speaking, somewhere around 10 to 12% of people are capable of a college education. So that means that the vast majority of people, somewhere
Yes.
between half and 2/3 of the people we put through the education system are actually wasting their time and money because they actually don't have the capacity to learn what universities are supposed to teach, which is those people capable of independent thought, self-learning, that can
Right. Provide
assist
value.
in the governance of the state.
Right.
And so the rest of the stuff is really just jobs programs that have been elevated to really expensive college programs.
Right. Right.
Where you actually, where it looks like from the evidence, all of it, that unless you're in a STEM class, especially in an engineering class, you actually never apply whatever it is you take in college.
There may have no application at all.
Right. And so really it's just a religious indoctrination program for 2/3 of people.
Yep.
And it's a very expensive one that means they can't, they have to delay marriage, they have to delay childbearing, and they're basically debt slaves for.
That's it. That's where I was going. It's like, it's not just indoctrination, but there's an slavery element to it.
And this is, of course, all that money to all those non-courses for all those non-professors is funding the PC woke cult. So they've set up this great scam for using debt to destroy the population, its reproduction, its cultural institutions, by getting the people to pay for their own destruction. So, kind of.
And it's not just pay, it's the expenses beyond financial. Yes.
Yes.
Oh my,
So,
that was rude.
although it's just, I'm not, it's not some
The profound nature of the destruction is laid bare by this.
and it's something that a lot of us know, right?
Yes.
Anybody who's studied the problem knows quite well the issue, which is that if your IQ isn't over 115, there's just
What are you doing here? Why are you?
You're not here. And you're talking about, and even if you're 115, that just means you're managerial. You got to be 125, or you always in the 120s to be able to do anything that is capable of independent research and thought. And this is really important because it means if you're doing everything else and you're in a quote profession and you're below that, you're just imitating what you've been told. You're not actually capable of the independent thought necessary to audit what you've been told.
I'm telling you, they're doing it to medicine.
I know they're doing it to medicine.
It's awful.
It's really obvious to me because I go in to talk to people and I'm like, I can't find anybody smart enough to talk to me. Right. Right. Half of the, it's like intellectually embarrassing. And
that's awful. And it's like, I'm putting my life where?
I have the same problem in the courtroom. It's like, I don't know how, I have to figure out how to dumb this down enough.
Wait, and not obviously, so that I don't get in trouble.
Because I don't piss anybody off. I was really pleased with my lawyer because she actually knew how to play that game. Right? She knew how to play it. But I'm like, I would have argued, if I was in I don't know if I'd be happy in front of the Supreme Court because of the game that goes on there. But in general, arguing a case turns out to be relatively easy if you actually understand it. Right. And you don't even have to go look up all these laws, right? Most of the time, there's certain regulatory issues, right? But most of the time, arguing a case is just a matter of understanding what really happened, right? That's all there is. But everybody's trying to lie and prevaricate and manipulate and whatever. And it's like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, so I just started talking. Like, I can't have that woman that I was married to, who did all these things right and whatever, think I'm trying to play a game here.
That's right. That's right.
Right? There's no game going on. What I say is what it is. That's
Right.
what I thought. That's what I did. And as far as I know, I was doing the right thing. Right. And even if that doesn't hold, I can't let you guys create the story
That's
for
right.
my ex-wife that thinks that I had some nefarious plan here. I have a really openly stated plan. I want to get back into my business, but I don't want to do it if the state can get in my pants and fuck it up again. Right. And
That's
so
very reasonable.
that's
Like-
just
like-
that's just simple.
Wait, let me think about that. No, that's not hard to think about.
You know?
That makes total sense. It's like,
Right. But they
because it would
can't,
be stupid
they
to do
live
it.
in this world of people who are simple and they can't really understand your motivations.
That's right. Their job is to untangle it, and they presume that they are used to all matter of nefarious nonsense being occurring in the dark.
Correct. And so the way I have generally, and I want a jury and I want a judge, because it's every time I get up and talk, I win. And every time they make me go through discovery, and then they present the information to the judge without me there, the story they're telling has nothing to do with reality. And the reason is because honestly, almost all the time I'm trying to do the right thing.
Just trying.
I'm just trying. It doesn't always work, and I'm willing to be wrong.
Right.
But I promise I was trying to do the right thing. My business partner used to say that to people. I know you don't understand him, right? You don't understand Kurt, but he's always trying to do the right thing. Always, right? I know this.
Because you know doing the wrong thing leads to so much more difficulty.
It's just too much work to do the wrong
I'm not
thing.
even trying to do that because it's too much work. There's no advantage that's big enough.
So the primary issue for me in my career is I think on a different time horizon. And I don't work as like, because they teach you this, right? Make some plan and follow it. I don't work like that. I look at the field of potential realities that could come into being, and I just move whatever chess piece makes the most number of those things, move forward.
Right.
I don't try to make the plan come into being.
Right.
I just try to, if this piece right now will move the set of potentials forward,
That's right.
that's all I do. Right. And it's like, and if an opportunity comes, I seize the opportunity
Right.
by not focusing on something else. And so it's just, I don't make a plan. I make a field of potentials that is constantly narrowed.
That's right.
Right. And so the problem is your management team doesn't want that. What they want is a plan to follow. Right. They
Where's
want
the
the
orders,
plan.
Commander. We need
Right,
the orders.
And the reason is they don't want to have to keep adapting the plan because you're seizing opportunities. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right. And so the way I learned this from Gates, by the way, Bill Gates, I studied Napoleon and I understood it Napoleon. But once I saw what Gates, because I Gates is like me, so I followed him. And so the way I just look at the problems is that you just don't let order get established. You don't let people get comfortable enough that political hierarchies can form that are dependent upon a plan that they can exploit for their own interest.
Right.
Which is what happens.
Quickly talk about this as the business is an instrumentality that you're employing, and you are actively avoiding institutionalization of that, which is the creation of the other interests taking hold.
Correct. And what those people are called is middle management that fuck everything up because they're trying to accumulate power so they can do less work. And so what I do is I gut middle management, right? I distribute the task of middle management to the highest number of people I can, each of whom does it because it lets them be in control of understanding rather than control of others. In other words, it lets them participate in the directional movement of the company toward these goals, instead of develop a political hierarchy which they can then move to suit their goals. So and this is again why I keep saying, or bureaucracies need war games,
Yes.
and they need to be run by projects, not departments. And so you need to move people across on all the projects. In other words, you need to create an orderly means of preventing alternative orders, right, that are contrary to the mission. And
Right.
so for some reason, this is like obvious to me, and right. And so to me, yeah, exactly. Sorry, it sounded really stupid, didn't it? I apologize.
No, it's nothing to be apologetic for, because it's like, I thought it was a noteworthy thing to say, because it is not obvious to everybody, because most people are trying to entrench themselves
Yes.
and to take advantage of opportunities that are predictable. They want the predictable opportunity, not the opportunity of the moment.
Right. They don't want to seize an opportunity and adapt to it. They want to, well, I mean, it's like
they want to just, it's behavioral economics.
yeah, just behavioral econ, like, which is getting to be one of your things, right? This is
I
getting
guess.
one of your Bradisms.
What's
It's just
that?
behavioral, it's just neural economy.
It's all
just
it is, man.
behavioral
It's like
economy.
it's just people.
I
Like,
mean, the
I
problem
really
is
would prefer to well.
you're getting so good at this, you're like, well, it's just behavior. It's like everything comes down to that. Yeah, of course, everything comes down to that. And underneath that, everything comes down to physics. You know, and
But no, it's not true, because Kurt, you're like that. You're high energy and you're seeking opportunities. You're not well sitting. You're doing it differently. Your behavioral economics is not the function that you're seeking advantage that they don't even know about, or something they're not going to be aware of, because they're busy well sitting and working on entrenching the well.
yes, but I believe we can train people to think in fields of potentials rather than fields of potentials and incentives rather than plans. I keep telling people, you make a plan so you understand the problem.
Wait,
It's not so you follow the plan.
I like that. That's interesting. So there's what's his name? What's the boxer's name? He says everybody has a plan until they get punched in the nose.
Yeah, I can't remember who that is.
It's that, I don't know, he's a black guy. He's tougher than nails, man.
Who said that? Now it's gonna bug me.
I'm sorry. I'm so
Everybody-
sorry. He's just a heavyweight boxer, just not long ago, 20 years. Just showing-
Punched. Right, get till they get punched. Tyson.
Yeah, Mike Tyson.
Oh no, wait a minute.
It's
Mike Tyson, when asked the reporter what he was worried about Holyfield and his fight plan, everyone has a plan till they get punched in the mouth. That's very Tyson.
It is.
You know what I love about that guy? I love the way he's matured into this incredibly honest guy.
Just a dude.
He fucking,
Just a dude.
you know, he's just hysterical, you know. Anyway,
So we're talking about middle management, and
well, I was starting out with being in court.
oh yeah,
And what was really bothering me is something that's bothered me since I started visiting courtrooms in high school.
right.
I realized my father was in government, so in grade school, I would go sit in with the government. And in high school, I would occasionally, because I was intellectually bored, I would just go sit in the courtroom, right?
See what happens.
And see what happens. And just because I was considering the career, right? And what's bothered me during my lifetime is it's become really clear that the state is abusing people
Oh yeah.
in those courtrooms, not helping them. Now you do get some people on these TV judges, and there's just like there's some good sheriffs in the country, there are some good judges, and they're like, I'm just trying to get us so this doesn't happen again.
Right.
They're talking to you as a person,
Right.
and that they're trying to make a relationship with you so that you repent,
That's it.
reform, and don't repeat. Right? I mean, it's really
That's all it is. It's the educational
repent,
process.
reform, don't repeat.
It's the hard part of it's the stick of the education establishment, right?
But there are too many of them who don't do that. They're actually in there as if they're administrating
Yes,
rather than relationshiping, you know, than parenting. And you know, I'm sitting there, this guy's listening behind this guy, and it's upsetting me like shit, right? So he's you know, if he's got an IQ of 90, it's a fucking miracle, right? But you know, he's like been in jail, he's gotten out of jail, he's gotten injured on the job.
right,
So he went out and took a bunch of debt out, and he's got himself a lunch cart, right? Lunch truck, right? And he's making, you know, $100 a day at it or something like that, right? I mean, just break even, right? Right. But it's his first year. And he's like, this is what I learned. And the thing is, I'm like, dude, I'm gonna kiss you, right? You're a
right. He's
grown-up
trying real
man.
hard, man.
You're a grown-up man, you're trying to take responsibility, you're looking forward to your future, right? Right. Right. You're paying your bills, whatever. And
Right.
he's saddled with child support that he cannot pay because he just cannot do it. And the state has gone under and created this responsibility that, you know, it's like, okay, you've ever been in a relationship with a girl and you're like, hey, if we get to the same apartment, we like save like, you know, $2,000 a month, right? Just by getting in the same apartment, right? So that means we live a better life just by having a shared household.
Right.
That's what that number means. Now, if you separate, all of a sudden, all those costs go back per household. So you double your costs.
Right.
The government has gone out and said, you could, I'm going to tolerate this thing called a divorce. And I'm going to force you and allow you to go out and create two households, which is going to double your expenses. And I'm going to tell your kids that they have the right to the previous standard of living and that this guy has to pay.
And he has to manage it. It's like, come up with 3 times as much money, dude.
And he can't.
Can't do it.
And so and he can't do it, and he can't be expected to, which is why you know, only a little over half of child support and alimony ever gets paid. So I'm like, well, if the state is going to create the moral hazard, if it's going to create the hazard of two things, then the state needs to fund it, because the state will then be accountable for reducing it, right? And it'll correct itself. But the state here has you built a bureaucracy that's built on torturing men, right, and exasperating women, and breaking up families, and right, and instead of forcing the compromise between the sexes, that to say this isn't about friendship, this isn't about sex, it's about the economics of reproduction and care. That's what it's not about friendship. It's not about sex. You might think it's about sex. You might think it's about friendship, but those are like bennies if they work out, right?
Right.
Really, it's just
Right.
economics.
Right.
You're forming a corporation with a business partner so that you can afford to reproduce with reciprocal and have reciprocal care as you age, right? And that if you're lucky enough, you'll raise your children well enough that they can assist in taking care of you as you age, because they've just distributed. If you have 5 kids, you've distributed the cost of taking care of those 2 parents across 5 people where it's cheap, right? Okay, makes perfect fucking sense. The state goes out and creates this hazard. And so I'm looking at this guy, he's fucking gorilla, right? He's like 6'3".
Right.
His shoulders are, you know,
Right.
I'm not exactly small, and this guy's like twice as wide as I am, right, at the shoulders.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I'm like, all I hear is a guy doing the right thing.
Right.
And he's fucked for life. He's never getting out, because the debt, a 25,000,
he'll be in debt forever. He'll never get
he'll
clear.
never get out. And so
Because the state is going to keep on clipping away at him forever.
And so this guy is like, well, you know, and it's like, I keep seeing this where, you know, let's get out of the divorce court, child support. I mean, realistically, it's $32 billion for the whole country, this child support alimony stuff. We burn that. I mean, that's like, we could shut off the education department and pay all alimony and child support instead. It's a swap, roughly, right? And what do you think, how much better off would the country be without the Department of Education and with
like
divorce insurance?
Is this like a trick question?
It's just not a hard question, right? I mean, it's a relatively easy one. If you want to you want to allow divorce, right? Fix the divorce problem, fix liability for divorce, right? Uh, um, get that fucking Catholic marriage and family class I had, except have it from like seventh grade on.
Yeah, that would be
As
nice.
right,
That's
so that
right.
by the time you get by the time you get out of high school, there's nothing about being married and running a family that you don't know,
That's
right?
the right answer, man. It's like
Right.
I went to public school and it was like that was absent and that was a mess.
Right. And I only got 1 year of it, and it was like
Hmm.
the most valuable class I ever had. There's no comparison
That's
between
I
taught by
guess
fucking brothers who aren't married, which was hysterical that they brought in real married people. Of course, they're from the Catholic communities, so they tend to be the moral ones, right? But they even took they even took like the hot couple in our senior class, right?
oh,
And how do you guys work it out?
wow.
And it was fucking amazing. I learned more about life in that one.
That's awesome.
It was fantastic. And I'm like, why do we have this every year?
It's because it's
You
too
know,
useful and it's not politically
why do
advantageous.
you get out of high school? You don't know how to balance a checkbook, do basic accounting, understand the loan or the
You're
time value
upsetting
of
me.
money.
You're upsetting me. It
I mean,
just
it's just
it's a
fucking
white and
criminal. Or how to write a contract. You don't have to be an idiot can write a contract. It's just basically a checklist in prose, right? Once you know what's got to be in the checklist. I mean, I can't believe we still pay lawyers for this. Right. I mean, because there's basically every contract for anything you can think of has already got a form somewhere,
yes.
right? And all it's varied is how much elegance and flourish some particular lawyers put in there. I write contracts all the time, and I write them in plain, simple English, and they're way clearer than the ones you're going to get out of your lawyer.
That's right.
Right. And they work because they're plain, simple English that says, I'm doing this, you're doing this. And then there's normal stuff that has to be in every contract, which is dates and, what you do it or shareholder agreement. I've written, you know how many shareholder agreements I've written about? I mean, it's like 100, right? It's probably more than that because I buy companies all the time. Right. So I write my own shareholder agreements. Well, there's just certain things you got to cover, which is, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if that happens? It's a fucking checklist. The rest of it is, well, the business, how does the business operate? And, how are we going to get money out of it? Right. I mean,
Right?
and
That's what we're here for.
it's
Just
like,
saying.
but why don't we tell kids the stuff that matters? Yet they're teaching our kids how to be sexually promiscuous,
That was rude.
sexually non-conformant, so they're going to deviate from success in their lives and marriages, instead of teaching people how to be successful marriages and how to run a household that doesn't fall apart because or even the truth of what's the point of marriage. It's not romantic at all. You're going to go in and do a business deal with a person of the opposite sex, right? And you're going to do you're going to do a trade. That person's priorities come first and your priorities come first to them, right? And whenever those two things aren't in gel, you give in to the other person to the limit of your ability. And as long as that maintains, that's fine. That's what marriage is, right? It's a business relationship. Now, the great thing about this business relationship is there gets to be sex involved,
No,
right?
how about that?
And there gets to be economic reward involved. And over time, you sort of go out of you go into what's called, you go from romantic love to friendship love to what we call Christian love or family love, right? And you just love that other person because you've spent so much time with your life with that person and you've aged out of your reproductive desirability. So that the only person in the world who is going to trade priority with you, right? Because there's no other reason for anyone else in the world
That's
to
right.
make that trade with you.
Nobody
So
gives
this is why don't we just tell people the fucking truth, right? And so, it just exasperates me that we don't prepare people, but we could. So I'm
Yeah.
sitting here looking at these poor guys, right? One after another.
Yeah.
And they're not like me. I'm a fucking blue blood New England Protestant, right?
Yeah, you're an outlier in that group.
So I'm sitting in here and I'm like, the only reason I'm here, the only reason I'm here is because I'm in the wrong city because of family reasons, right? So, and it's not like I have like Wilson Sonsini, if you don't know what that is. They're like, that's my lawyer for acquisitions right? Right, when I used to do acquisitions deals, right? They're the best people in the country. There's nobody else. I mean, at least from my perspective. If you want to do an M&A, you hire Wilson Sonsini. If you're in Seattle, you want to hire Preston Gates and Ellis, or one of the other three big firms. It's all the same thing, right? That's who you're used to dealing with. But these guys are grown-ups that you could talk to, right? They're competent.
Right.
When you're wrong, they just tell you you're wrong, and it's in logical terms and all these prevarications and whatever. And you know, and so here I am in this backwater fucking town with these people with room temperature IQs, abusing labor class guys who are fucked because the government made some utopian idea about what was economically possible for people if they allowed this thing for divorce to come out, and they maintained alimony and child support with it. So they created this fantasy world, and these guys are paying for it with their lives.
They're being oppressed, yes.
Right. And I'm like, this is just criminal. So this is what I wanted to talk about. Have I painted my...
That was good. The tableau is complete.
I painted this picture, right?
Right.
So this is me and my my Catholic moral noblesse obligée, right?
Yes.
I am responsible for protecting these little people, and I can't help myself. I'm sorry. Even the stupid fucking Nazis and the fundamentalist Christians who drive me nuts, and the morons, and right, they all drive me fucking nuts, but I'm still technically Anglo aristocracy, and it's still the obligation and ability to take care of the little folk.
Wait,
right?
And you still have some forgiveness to exhaust.
It's like you tell guys, I really don't want to associate with you. Honestly, I'd rather associate with a bunch of other Jewish nerds or Anglo nerds, because with it we have in common. But it doesn't mean I don't give a fuck about you. I understand, because that's the obligations of, and that's what I was raised with.
Right.
Right. So I'm just sitting here thinking, why are we putting up with this shit? Why are these guys? There's so many men being tortured on a daily basis, and there's no reason for it.
Wait, and now there is a reason for it. You don't understand the reason for it, and you're not accounting for it. And so I'm going to go to this. I'm going to talk about the homelessness in Los Angeles, and there is a reason for it. Some would say that it's like a bug in the system is what you're suggesting. It's a bug in the system. It's not a bug. It's a feature, and the purpose of it is to terrorize somebody for some purpose.
Yeah.
And it is like this: the homelessness in Los Angeles is so that you suffer human rights, the Human Resources Department's predatory activities and impositions and oppression with as much grace as you can muster, for fear of becoming among them on the streets of LA. And the same goes with the men. I don't know what the oppression of the men is for in the divorce courts, but it serves some similar social purpose for somebody that's neither one of us.
Well, they're just facilitating your responsibility. And the people, and they're externalizing it on the males, which is everything they do. That's all they do.
Yes, because the women get to be irresponsible in their choices and their behaviors, and the men must bear the price by state imposition.
Right.
That's awful.
So
that irritating. Thank you.
So the first really hostile thing I wrote was after sitting in court and watching this.
Yeah, I could see that. It's like getting all charged up. It's like, this has to come out somewhere. That's safe.
And it's like, I would look like, I remember sitting in a court in what's that island?
Whidbey.
No, it's the other direction.
See,
Anyway, there's an island. I want to say Medina. I don't think it's right. I've been gone long enough that I've forgotten. Anyway, there's Seattle. There's the bridge over the lake. There's the island. There's the bridge over the lake into Bellevue. Right? There's a little island there, and it's basically the whole island's just
Mercer
Island. Thank you. And I'm sitting in court there, and I'm listening, and I can't remember what I'm there for. I'm there for something stupid like a parking ticket or
right,
speeding or
nothing.
some administrative thing that I just
Process. You're serving the
because
process,
I me just didn't show up on my radar
right?
because I'm Kurt and I don't keep track of things like I should, right? So I'm in there for some administrivia and I'm listening to this guy, listen to this, and I got so angry that these people kept being punished because they're too poor to pay an $80 fine.
Right. They get another thing on top of the thing. Just
Right.
procedural nonsense.
So
Stacking.
the guy's got to take a day off from, he gets paid by the hour, take a day off, right? And you're basically trying to tell people who don't have the physical capacity to have a higher time, a lower time preference, right? They don't have the income to afford to adopt a lower time preference. In other words, think ahead more. They're actually worried about things like, they're actually worried all the time because they're on the edge of risk.
Just driving to work is risky.
Well, so they're in a position if their car breaks, they're in really deep trouble, right?
Yeah.
So I'm listening to these guys get punished, and all I want to do, of course, is stand up and pay these. I mean, I'm at this point, I'm so wealthy enough to do it. I just want to stay there all day and just pay fines for these guys, just so I can not. It's not even for them. It's because my anger.
Right. Satisfies your desire for getting even with the system somehow.
Or just doing justice.
Yes.
Right. And so here's a great example. I remember this guy's really vivid in my mind. If you're a guy and you've got a 85 IQ and you want to do the right thing, but you really can't because you're basically thrown into the capitalist meat grinder without an education, without a basic understanding of family, whatever, right? And you're expected to act like you're genetically middle class and you're not. And so what do you have? You have your pride.
Yes.
That's all you've got. Because that pride is what provides your will to keep going despite that.
Stand up and do it again tomorrow, right?
Right. That's what it is. And so you get insulted and you're one of those guys, and some guy gets out of line and insults you and you pop them in the face, right? Right. And you're in really deep trouble for that. I'm like, well, honestly, the guy deserved the pop in the face.
He did.
And you had every right to protect your
dignity, man.
Your dignity.
That's all you got.
Right? Because that's all you got. And the state and we as a society need that guy to preserve his will to act.
That's right.
Right? And so I'm thinking about this guy, and he's like, there's nothing wrong with this guy, except he's got a 85 or 87 IQ, right? He can read, right? But that's it. He's not gonna. He can read. He can do simple labor, right? But fundamentally, put that guy in the military and teach him how to change tires.
If he's not, they had this problem in Vietnam. The McNamara's idiots.
McNamara's morons.
Yeah, they let them in there that were below the target, and it was like they were a liability.
Right, but
provide no valuable service that exceeds the cost to keep them around.
Correct. Now but there's a group there between 85 and 95. Because at 95 you start to be able to do administrivia. Like I always want to tease doctors. I'm like, it must be hell to be a doctor. The average IQ of a doctor is like 125, and the average IQ of the administrative staff is like 93. And for me, it would be hell just to talk to the administrative staff.
No, it's the administrators are all right. The issue is this: is what's interesting is that there's an infinite amount of people that I have conflict with, and I communicate with them through the computer. So we do battle over the computer, and their job is to drag their feet, and my job is to make it work anyway. So I get the vision where they're supposed to be, but it makes it very inefficient, and it's like it's frustrating. It's like it doesn't work right. It won't work right. It's not supposed to work right. It's not a bug. It's a feature, and because when the system functions appropriately, it costs too much. So it's like, okay, and it's way expensive to have all these people that have the 93 IQs looking over my shoulder and telling me what to do.
Well, that's the problem, right? Is it's really expensive to have
lots and lots of them.
So But in any event, it's not that we can't create an economy. We can't create, I mean, the WPA is a great example of how to
Yes.
solve a problem. It's a military organization of labor that produces commons, right? I mean, so there's people that can't do anything. There's people who can, but they can't function in a market.
That's right.
And there's people who can, and they can function in the market.
You're talking, what you're doing is you're reinstituting serfdom.
Serfdom, well,
Like these people are essentially serf-like because they are unable to manage themselves in a competitive environment.
correct.
So they need to be in a regulated environment and take away the burdens from them and tell them what to do.
Take away the market burden from them.
Yeah.
In other words, the problem solving part of
Your
finding.
job is to clean cars, clean the car, make my car clean, and drive me.
Or even make it vaguely interesting, like, you work on this or that, or, over the course, I mean, the one I tend to think about is arborealists and
Yeah.
right?
Those guys are
Because
awesome.
Right?
Because it's like, make my yard look nice.
Right. I mean,
It's beautiful.
well, right. It's not even the yard. It's like make the commons look nice again.
Yeah.
Right. Right. I mean,
Yeah. That's what I mean, though. I'm talking about in operation at the moment,
Yes.
not in
Yes.
in the future potential.
so we have to have that. And so, I'm just looking at, I keep saying, I've written all this out, how to solve these problems. Right. And I've done the loose math, right. And it's all solvable. The problem is what you call elites and I call the bureaucracy or the state, right? These people have, or the cathedral.
Yeah.
And they have this cult that they're actually valuable when the evidence is they're not. The evidence is they're incredibly costly.
They're counterproductive is what
And they're
they are.
counterproductive. Now, it doesn't mean that there's no value in some of this stuff. It means that the organizations aren't set up to force you to continuously adapt if that's what you're actually paid for. I got to understand, that's what we're actually paying smart people for. Because what does smart mean?
Can
It means
adapt.
continually adapt. So if you're not continually adapting, we don't need you. In other words,
Right,
your
there's
job.
no well sitting here. No well
There's no
sitting on
well
the
sitting.
public dime. Right.
So in other words, if you're not able to continuously adapt and continuously solve problems, which basically means running projects, not departments.
Right.
If you're not continually turning over projects and adapting to the new project that's come along to do this new thing, then you're not actually adding value. We could actually privatize that work and increase the return on capital and decrease the overhead costs of your well sitting.
That's right.
So I'm looking at this stuff and I'm just, of course, I'm getting angrier and angrier and angrier while I'm sitting there.
Right.
After I get over the emotion of I was quite emotional about, I just didn't want my ex-wife to think I was trying to
Right.
scam her. It really made me incredibly upset. So I'm sitting there and I'm getting angry, and I was like, this is why I said I was going to overthrow the government. I snuck that up quick, didn't I?
I didn't expect that one. See, it all comes so clear now.
It's
It's just a natural response. It's not the government per se, it's merely the cathedral.
So the cathedral's got to be eradicated. You have Putin coming along and say you have elites that hate you. It's true.
That's right.
It's true.
They have their own interests. It's not that
They hate us. They hate us. They absolutely hate us.
That's because you're an actual threat.
So and I'm sitting here and like, I can be fine anywhere, right? I'll always be fine, but I just can't get over the fact that I can't let the bad guys win.
No, I share the sentiment, which is it's noblesse oblige.
Exactly.
And because I can't abandon the innocence to them, I
Yep.
can't allow that to occur. it's not acceptable to me morally, so it's I'm compelled to act.
So the problem is, is that in my experience, it's impossible to reach the innocents because they're so pissed off now, they can't listen to reason.
That's the purpose of pissing them off.
Well,
It's not a bug, it's a feature that the cathedral is instilling them with such anger to avoid reason. It is counter logical logic. They are agitating the emotions for the purpose of avoiding reason. To control the people by controlling them emotionally.
you basically sow discord.
That's correct. It's
Again, so I start out with this story, right? I'm trying to, you should call it setting the tableau.
yes,
I'm trying to, I've covered why I feel bad for those people.
yes,
In the past, I've said, look at what the government did to my company by the irresponsibility of regulating the banking sector. I've seen what the government did to me because they said I owed the IRS money when they owed me money, right? I've said, stick me in Ukraine, right? Stick me in Ukraine
Yes.
without a dime to my name in the middle of a civil war when I'm like, I don't even care what the amount is. I know it's wrong, but I'll give it to you right now. But you want me to sit up and give you the paperwork. Meanwhile, you're going to go on vacation for a month, federal government vacation for a month, sticking me in this fucking war zone with no money, right? That's irresponsible, right? The government goes out and takes this thing with marriage and alimony and child support. That's irresponsible. The government creates a social security program that isn't based on savings and
no,
investment. It's based on welfare
Ponzi,
redistribution,
yes, Ponzi.
right? It's a Ponzi scheme. So, I mean, that's irresponsible. The government doesn't even realize, the court doesn't even realize the foundation of the European system of law, especially the Anglo codification of it, or the American articulation of it.
Yes,
Excuse me, the Anglo articulation of it and the American
Yes.
codification of it. And they don't even understand that system. And so they come along with this positive law bullshit. And then we get at the cathedral in here and they say, we're going to replace this evil military aristocracy. They're not evil. They're the ones that made it all happen. It's not clear that Europeans are Europeans unless they're part of the aristocracy. They might just be itinerant peasants for all we know.
we don't know. We can't
Right.
tell. We have to
So-
vet them out for a while. Is all it
So
is.
you get the aristocracy, this wonderful balance between aristocracy and church. The post-war movement here works on deplatforming the military aristocracy,
Right.
so that Eisenhower is the last one of a long chain, which is what we don't want. We want as many generals in the presidency as possible. And then we come out here and we say, okay, well, let's try this great society program that destroys every city, right? And then let's bring in the immigrants and overload the ability for the culture to produce high trust, right? And so they've done,
Forward Piven plan.
of course, it's the Piven plan, but the point here is the state is irresponsible. It's criminally irresponsible.
Wait, no. That's an interesting statement, which I will have to have contention with. It is responsible to whom?
Well, I mean, if the purpose of the state is responsible to the people, then the state is.
Okay. So there's a presumption there, which is not shared by the cathedral, which is the state is responsible for destroying the people and empowering me. Which
Yes.
is the cathedral. Then it's performing perfectly well. Which is why Kurt wants
Well, it's performing perfectly well for those people against the interests of the
That's correct.
the people. And
That's correct.
Oddly enough, the Hispanics are
They're
catching
wise
on.
to the game. It's like, hey, wait a minute. Right. It's amoral. And
If I could just figure out why the blacks can't figure out why they're being
I think I am of the opinion And this is where we may vary, because it's like this. I'm of the opinion that they're rising up too.
Yeah, I can't think of that. Shit.
I know it's like this. It's difficult to see the shift to consciousness, but it's like the Hispanics wised up quickly and suddenly. And I think the same thing is occurring with the African American. And it's like, because the lies are, you got intelligent people among the blacks, and they're telling them they're not blacks, they're whites, because they think like whites or whatever, it's some bullshit, which is like using logic and reason.
Well, I mean, whites think like majority middle class people. You can, right? In other words, the white civilization America, especially Anglos, I mean the Anglo-Germanics, we think about the world like majority middle class. Then when they call that acting white, it's not acting white, it's acting majority middle class. Anybody who acts majority middle class is going to act like white people act, because it's not how white people act, it's how majority middle class act.
It's hard to, I know it's hard for some people to tease it out, especially if there's an advantage to be gained by calling it what it is, maybe appears to be easily projected as.
Yeah. What's whiteness? It's called science. Right?
Rationality, logic, and reason.
Yes. And that's all it is.
So my opinion is
it's evidence, logic,
okay.
Reason, rationality, and reason. Evidence. I just want to make evidence goes in there.
Evidence, logic, rationality, and reason.
That's the hierarchy.
Okay.
Then you get into calculating and computing.
Okay.
That's one of those series I try to.
Thank you. Okay. So
why don't
that's why you became interested in destruction of the cathedral. I don't know how else to say it.
I was originally writing in 2016, my first draft was just understand what we're about.
Right.
In 2009, it was understanding what conservatives were about in understanding as a way of understanding, explaining what we're about. Which
What we're about is Western civilization, I presume.
Yes.
Okay.
And between 2009 and 2014, I basically figured it out. About 4 or 5 years in there. And it was it's probably, there's some correlation between being completely off my rocker and very sick, and having and so that I could have nothing else to think about except to abstract. In other words, I couldn't handle anything else. So I was able to focus all my energies on that between 14. And from 14 to about 19 or 20, I basically had it all worked out. And since 20, I'm sitting here working, or 21, I'm working with you on how the hell do we tell this fucking story so that, not Joe Sixpack, but at least the college educated folks can comprehend it. And we're pretty much, it seems like we're there.
Yeah.
Even though I have to count on Dr. Brad here to make sure that my fascination with the grains of autistic detail and by like some greedy hedonistic what do you call him, like that guy who's like always wants to eat the next candy, right? I can't control my gluttony for information, as hopefully you can constrain that, keep that under wraps enough that I can keep it at some level of normal.
Was it interesting? It's like it requires a level of anti-focus to defocus, Kurt, to soften the edges so that the entire photo, the image will appear, and we don't have to focus on so many details, which he will tell you in odd and odd.
And I'll enjoy it.
Yeah. That's all right.
Obsessively.
Yes.
So, but we didn't get to the point where, so yeah, that's great. We have the answer, we can communicate it. I've actually written how to solve pretty much every problem I know of in reform, whether it be conceptual, legal, constitutional, policy, whether economics, family, whatever, I've addressed it's like every other fucking thing I've done, right? I've done it for everything, right? Which is why I'm such a jerk. So you go through, so I've gone through everything, and I've gone through how to reform different different disciplines, right? So I mean, I've gone through all this stuff, and
I
it's
don't
like
think that's why you're a jerk, Kurt. I think it's just a side effect.
such an asshole.
Sorry, brother. I had to do it. Sorry.
Here,
I didn't mean to
Here.
derail you there.
okay, that's okay. I'll take the hit. I can't deny it. I mean, that would be a violation of my promise of reciprocity and a commitment to truth.
You're all right, man. I love you. Just keep going. I'm sorry. Don't like I say I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I apologize.
Anyway, so, but you know, the problem is that I want to bring about, when I get, it's one thing to sit here and work, right?
Yes,
It's another thing to watch men suffer.
it's awful.
So when I go to see this and I see, you know, I don't feel bad for the drug user out there in the street. I don't.
No, he's doing it on purpose.
But that guy out there who's got a,
No,
God
he's
knows,
distracted from what he's trying to do punishment
right, to do
or
punishment.
be oppressed.
Right. So he's being oppressed to pay a cost he couldn't possibly pay, because the state has created a condition under which he has to be able to generate the income for to assist in 2 households. Meanwhile, they haven't created the economic circumstances or the educational circumstances necessary for him to create even 1 household. And so I'm just like, this is what evil means to me. And so I'm just looking at this cathedral complex, which is the academy, the state media
social
complex.
order, the social order.
It's fucking evil. And so I'm like, okay, well, the problem is, how do I, because I've tried and obviously failed, how do I get this information to a position where the people are willing to show up to end this cathedral? Because that's what I want to do. I want to end the cathedral.
Okay, wait, say that statement again.
How do I get people on board? You know,
Okay.
it's not,
This is why I'm here. This is why I'm
right,
here.
but I know that, but let me try it again. It's a reformation,
Yes.
right? I'm not coming up with like even something as small as Darwin, right? This is a big reformation. This
Yes.
is on the scale of, you know, Locke and Smith and Hume and, you know, whatever. It's on the
I
scale of,
understand you. And it's like this, it's like, so here's
so I
the
can't,
thing.
I don't know how to tell them about it.
I know, that's why I'm here. I'm here to help you, Kurt. The issue is this, all you have to do is finish your book. That's your job right now. You just have to finish your book. Then you're beginning to tell them right now, they are working on becoming receptive to the message right now by being oppressed by the cathedral. The cathedral, like I just went and yesterday, so you know, I paid more than $5 the first time ever for a gallon of gas yesterday. And I was impressed that I can now put $100 worth of gas in my car, which is impressive. And it's like this, and it didn't really bother me because I have money. Okay. But I feel for the guy who is driving down there, driving his $100 a day machine to try to get some money. It's like he's paying this, he feels it. And
Right,
this is
our government can fix it overnight.
right. So it's like this, that when you look at it as a transformational process, so there's an equilibrium. The population has to change its consciousness, and the consciousness is being cooked by the Leninists who are in charge. That's what's happening, which is preparing the mind to accept that which is going to be offered in the moment that follows. That's what's happening. The population's being pressed and their mind is being prepared to change. And the heat is being applied by the Leninists, and they're doing it wonderfully well. The cathedral is cooking everybody out of this nonsense because they keep doubling down on stupider and stupider. And it's accelerating at a rate that you can't perceive. You don't need to do anything. They are doing it for you. Your job is to complete your task, which is to talk about how they lie. And then we can move on from there and provide positive policy implementation recommendations that they can understand in the context of the natural law. And there is no other suitable alternative available, and they will recognize that. Because I talk to people all the time that are regular people, just regular people, and they're older people. So I have a population. It's a internal medicine type population, so they tend to be retired, a lot of them. And it's like I talk to them, and it's like they're exceptionally receptive to the ideas. They understand what's going on, and it's just the terminology is different. They're using defocused terminology that is resonant with the ideas that you present. They are Americans, and they are ready for an American Reformation. That's all that the people are ready for this. They're waiting for the signal to arrive. That's all. And we're waiting for the slow kids in the class to pick up the message from the Leninists that shit doesn't work. Because when the gasoline hits the next digit, so when I pay $10 a gallon for gas, I'm pretty confident that all the class that's going to learn about Venn diagrams will have learned that this is not a place we can survive. We can't live with these people in charge. That's all. And it's okay. So you are not responsible for preparing the population to understand, take the message. Your job is to prepare the message. That's all your job is at the moment. Don't worry about this other thing. That's just neuroticism at function.
Yeah, so basically I got really upset the other day, and it makes me want to act, which is the state where everybody else is in.
Right. You were emotionally charged because witnessing the oppression is irritating, and it is, and is reasonably so. But it's like this, it's time to channel that energy appropriately, as opposed to, it's not time to act, it's time to finish your work.
Well, the work we have to do left is, aside from just check about the last bits of deceit, which I'm still not convinced even merits our attention now.
Really?
Well, it'd be worth having it for the guys, maybe.
It's okay.
But getting back to the book, that's a lot of drudgery, man.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
Drudgery, did you say?
yeah, I mean it's a lot.
It's work.
It's work.
Right. And it's like, this is what it takes to accomplish the objective, right? Because it's like this.
That's why I say I had to come live near you.
Well, we'll see what happens. We're getting there. We're getting there. This is you have to look at this energizing function. So it's like this. So the population is being energized by the Leninist cathedral imposition.
They're overreaching.
I know, but they're baking the minds. They're putting the heat under there to drive the reaction, which drives them in to look for alternatives. They're driving the orientation reflex among the population. Your job is to generate the star that they can aim at, right? So when you get energized to do something, that's what you do. You generate the beacon, the lighthouse in the dark, so that they can orient towards the light. That's all we're doing here. It's an absolutely essential function. Otherwise, the cathedral can win.
All right. So you let me vent about my frustration for over an hour. That's very nice of you.
No, it's essential to understand what exactly is going on in your head, because it's like, what is it? One of my main jobs here is to make sure you may remain motivated enough to accomplish your objective. That is like the biggest thing, because if all you have to do is remain motivated and you will accomplish your objective, I'm trying to keep you on track and not be distracted by all the bullshit going on, because it's just bullshit.
Yep. My
job is, I tell people this, because see, I run into, I'll tell you this is a funny story, I had a miner come in, and he has these papers that it's like they're from Human Resources, and he's trying to get some money because he's got some problem that the HR people send him in and said, fill out these papers. And it's like, he's like this. He throws the papers on the desk, and I love this shit because it's like, you know how bad I want to fill out some papers from HR. He goes, I hate bullshit. And I go, really? That makes you special? Exactly how, sir? And I said, funny thing is that you're dealing with a man who is a professional at dealing with bullshit. That's what I do. That's all I do. My job is to manage bullshit for guys like you to make it work. And we know it's bullshit. I get paid a lot of money to deal with bullshit, but not enough money to deal with bullshit. Because if it weren't for actual patients, I wouldn't do it. They can't pay me enough to do this. It's just bullshit. But I get to enjoy the company of a nice person, help them accomplish their objectives,
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
solve the bullshit. And that gives me some warm,
Good.
some cockles of my heart, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's okay. So I'm here to deal with the bullshit, to get Kurt to understand the bullshit, that it's just bullshit. And you can't fix all the bullshit. And it's Hebrew, man. Bullshit.
You know, I was thinking about that. When I was younger, I had my ability to get angry and maintain anger and put it to work was almost limitless.
Interesting.
And I can't do it anymore.
No, you just have to go, okay, that's not useful.
Well, I don't know. It was useful. I mean, I put people in jail. I was really good at it. So I could stay angry for long enough, morally outraged for a long time. And so the problem is I can't maintain that emotional stress.
No, it's not necessary. It's not necessary.
Well, you say that, but it's how I focus on that stuff for a long period of time.
You're doing quite well. Focused. It's like my job is to keep you on track.
Well, my point is this is a much nicer way of staying focused.
Oh yeah, it's less stressful. It's like this is.
Sorry, I thought the connection was obvious, but I didn't.
No, no, it's good. As long as we stay on track and get it done, that's all good. We're on track. We're making great progress.
So let's cover lying.
Okay. We're gonna do it
What's
today.
next weekend.
Next weekend. Okay. I cannot meet tomorrow.
I have some. I have to go. I have to mount that volume in technical speak, which is fill my head with it again.
That's right. That's good.
And then maybe next week we can pick up on lying. And once my head is back in that space, maybe after we can get through lying, which we've covered a lot of, but we're going to get right down into the female method of lying.
Okay.
And I think what we've done is we've explored that it's all responsibility evasion well enough that we don't have to make that. It's not going to be hard to come to that conclusion.
No.
And then we can frame everything in the context of empathizing versus systematizing and responsibility evasion versus responsibility accumulation. And then we can see how the women use the female method of deceit is used, and we can continue our exploration of the why is it that we've spent so much time developing institutions of male deceit, which we call ideology philosophy. And we have only now come to terms with the female method of deceit, which is storytelling, etc. And then if we are successful in that contrast, you know, what hopefully will happen is some of the guys will start, or somebody will start using it to, because our stuff percolates around the internet. Somebody just sent me another one. Is somebody will start to see, wow, we can talk about these particular people in these terms, right? As in which kind of method of lying they're using. And that ought to be, if that starts to percolate through it all, it'll be like how we percolated reciprocity through the.
This is interesting. Categorization of lies, okay? Is a this reminds me of in the psychiatric establishment, we have a DSM
Yes.
or a field manual for the designation of mental states, mental
Correct.
conditions. And it's like it's just
I know this book.
Categorization of lies, okay? So that's is Yeah, to have generated the categorization of lies and then able to name the lies categorically and have that associated with your institution or institute, right, is appropriate. Because that is the beacon now. The lighthouse is on the shore, and it is a warning and a navigational guide. And of great utility for political purposes.
It's actually terrifying. It's one of those things, it's like, if science is the transformation of idiosyncratic, unrelated rules
Yes,
to a small number of internally consistent, externally correspondent rules of the universe,
yes,
then what we're talking about is completing that unification.
yes.
And like you say, it's crystalline, right? I mean, it's
Beautiful.
we're-
It is. It's just crystal.
And then once we have that, the explanatory power is probably enough to drive. Explanatory power
See,
alone.
it's interesting. It's not a driver. It's not a driver. It is a guide,
Mhm.
because it's a guide because I know what to do given the crystalline structure of this thing that I now see from the advantage point that you are generating here. It doesn't drive me to do anything. My intrinsic desire for goodness is what drives me.
Yes.
And now you're providing the guidance that allows me to achieve good at minimal friction with my neighbors,
Mhm.
benefit everybody. There's no driver there. You're not the driver. You're a guider. You're providing guidance. It's a star in the night.
Yeah, again, my mind is going 1,000 places right now, so I'm a
It's
little
okay.
off. So let's close up for the day. I'll go find some lunch. That might be.
There
why
you
I'm
go. That'd be good. Get a recharge up, brother.
getting-
That was
and
episode 2029. Was a wonderful little chat. I enjoyed chatting with you today, Kurt.
thanks for this latter bit of therapy you've sort of let me engage in. All
So
right.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure
All
to provide some value, and I hope that the audience enjoyed it. And as again, like, subscribe, hit the bells and dingers, and always leave comments, because we want to see what you have to say. We're seeking to reach out and provide value to a wider community, the widest possible community of humanity. How about that?
right, brother. Love you. Thank you for today.
See you later.